start. We're here in actually Scottsdale for the Spring Creek Coffee House remote edition of the BCS National Championship game with Jason Vondersmith of the Portland Tribune, Stephen Alexander of the Portland Tribune, and Steve Brennan of the Portland Tribune. Thank you very much for joining us today. So let's talk about the BCS. What have we learned so far?
Well, I think we learned that Auburn's really big. I think it's another one of those games, just like Ohio State last year, just like USC. I remember the year before, looking at these guys going, these guys are a lot bigger than the Ducks. It's just a matter of if they have the speed to contend with Oregon, which has as good a speed as anybody in the country. And that's my indelible impression so far.
Well, Nick Fairley, Auburn's defensive tackle, said this morning that he didn't think that the size advantage would be quite as much as everybody's making it out to be. That Oregon has some ability to be athletic, and their line can move the play. The other thing that Fairley was worried about was whether or not the bigger defense would be able to keep up with the smaller Oregon offensive linemen getting to the ball. Now that's a lot of pregame talk. I think that Auburn's line will be able to get the push on Oregon's offensive line. You know,
the thing Jason said, I jumped on too, the idea of this big. I think not only is Auburn bigger, but they have a big team mentality. You know, I think
Yeah.
The SAC champion,
Yes.
undefeated. They've
Yeah.
been in SEC land. I mean, I think they just come in with that confidence. That we're we belong here, and I think Oregon's close to that, and this game could put them over the top.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Chip Kelly's trying to get into these guys and to just buy into his system and all that. Hey, we're a big team too. I mean, but I don't know if they're quite there yet. You know, this game's going to go a long way to proving that. They're going to have to get over that hurdle, I think, still.
And one of the ways that Chip Kelly's really trying to instill that into his team is he's showing them movies like Secretariat and The Fighter about underdogs, the undersized, winning the championship, winning the race. He's almost trying to play up that we're the underdog, it's us against the world. He's almost trying to play that up,
and that's
as
psychology.
This game goes into it.
That's psychology. His psychology on his team has worked to a T in so many different ways in the last 2 years that I almost not that I feared that it's going to happen, but the Ducks, I'm curious to see if they come out tight. I really am, because they've been kind of sequestered here. It's hard to say that they're as loose as Auburn because we really don't know. I think it's just business as usual for them. They're usually pretty loose anyway because they feel so good about their preparation. But to Steve Brandon's point here, it's like the Tigers are kind of loosey-goosey, and they feel like they belong here. So they don't even sense that they're nervous in any way.
I do think that Chip Kelly has shown that, he knows how to punch the buttons of these guys. He knows his players. And this thing about being tight, I think that's really true. It's going to be interesting. So much has been made about the pace, how Oregon plays so fast and a snap at every 13 seconds. Well, they do, but it seems to me they mostly do that at points of the game. It's when they got a team on the ropes, where they see that, they smell blood, they just talked about, will they come right out then? I mean, from the get-go, or do you be a little conservative in that first quarter and not want to, fall behind? I mean, are they just going to wing it? I mean, really just boom, boom, boom right from the start, right? and try to get that nervousness out of it or something.
And I think if they do get that offense going, I obviously haven't been on, watched every single Auburn game this year and everything, but from what I see, from what I know about the players, if Oregon's offense gets going, they're going to score a lot of points. And they're going to score a lot of points.
Oregon has been notorious all season for coming out flat, for getting behind. They were down 21-3 against Stanford. They can't do that in this game. the conditioning that Oregon's been able to utilize in the second half is not going to be as present in this game as it was all season. Auburn has had 37 days to get into just as good of a condition as Oregon is. That second half comeback is not something that they can bank on.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if Auburn does get into a situation like Terrell Pryor, if Newton and Auburn can do what Pryor and Ohio State did last year in the Rose Bowl, Auburn's going to win this game. If they get 41 minutes or a similar time of possession, I think Auburn's going to win this game.
That's true.
That's a good point. Here we are. We talked 5-10 minutes. Now we mentioned Cam Newton, who could be the, he seems like the logical MVP choice, unless Michael James or Darren Thomas does something pretty spectacular. But how can they stop him? You got Oregon with this pace and that sort of thing, and then but Auburn, you got Cam Newton, Terrell Pryor, exponentially. So that's going to be huge. And can they? Because even third and long, I mean, what do you rather do? Put the ball in Cam Newton's hands, or pretty much try to have Darren Thomas throw a pass or something as good as that is? I mean, boy, I would take Cam Newton there. So
what sticks out about Newton is that I've watched a lot of highlights and I watched some games, and this guy does not get hit very often behind the line of scrimmage, which tells you something about his offensive line. It also tells you how cerebral and how good an instinctual runner he is. I mean, almost like he's moving in slow motion, which at 6'6", 250, a guy like that can make it look. But he's so smart, which I think with his intelligence, knowing how to run the ball, combined with a pretty big and experienced offensive line, it's really hard for me to fathom that Oregon's going to have much success stopping him.
Well, Oregon's best weapon against Cam Newton is to put points on the board themselves and make Newton have to make plays happen. He said that Oregon's offensive pressure was just as big of a factor as whatever the defense does, because they force you to get off the game plan to try and throw the ball more just to catch up. If Oregon can get Cam Newton and Auburn off the game plan by scoring points, that's their defense's best chance against a player like that.
I mean, do you guys see Oregon containing Auburn's offense or slowing it down? I mean, maybe with some turnovers.
Cam Newton's got to be penciled in for 200, 300 yards passing, 100 plus yards rushing, and X number of points. So you're right. Oregon's got to outscore them, and they've got to do it in a way. I don't know that, even if they're 7-10, even 14 points ahead, if it's still early, until you get into the fourth quarter, I don't know if you throw them off their game plan that much. I mean, in the fourth quarter, maybe, but we'll see. I think Steven's right, though. That is, one of the things they've got, they've really got to try to do.
And Auburn's been a little bit like the Ducks all season. They were down 21-0 against Auburn, and it was against Alabama, and it was almost 28-0 before Ingram fumbled the ball out of the end zone.
And I said, remember, we saw that score, and I go, game over, when I saw those stats of McElroy and Ingram and those guys.
So Oregon's going to have to keep the offensive pressure on Auburn the entire time. They've proven that they can come back no matter what the lead is.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday Nick Aliotti really stole the show by talking about that the defenses would have to show up, because he was continually asked, what is Oregon going to do to stop Cam Newton? If you recall, he never specifically said what they would do. Now, what we know about the Oregon defense is that they play a mixture of a 4-3